video at the same time. You're like, and fix the hair. Welcome to the Kafe Ankara podcast. My name is Ada Ezeokoli, and I'm your host.
Yeah.
My guest today is Elizabeth Wuraola Kolade, a cybersecurity expert, STEM advocate, and an all-around tech enthusiast. She holds a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity science from the Federal University of Technology in Mina, United States, and she's a fellow of the Barack Obama-initiated Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI, a fellow of the Alat by Wema Bank Tech Chicks class of 2018, and she was listed as one of the top 50 women in Cybersecurity Africa in 2020. Welcome again, Wura. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for honoring my invitation.
Oh, thank you.
How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
It was lovely.
Thank you.
So, I wanted to start really at the very beginning, which for me would be, talk to me a little bit about your childhood. What was it like growing up, and what do you have some of your perhaps favorite memories from growing up?
Okay, growing up was, I think most of my childhood memories, I remember is wrapped around growing up with my siblings. I think I was more of an indoor kid. We were always within the confines of our home, and I mean we were 4 in number, so we had company, and it was just always fun to be around each other. My fondest childhood memory, I can't really place it, but it would be being around my dad. I think I remember that more. So I was always around him, either with my siblings or just myself. But I have memories that revolve around
your dad. What did your dad do? Because I read somewhere that he was thinking of engineering.
Yeah, he was an electrical engineer.
Awesome. So how did your interest in technology begin? Or in the IT space?
Yeah, in tech generally.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I was always around my dad. He was an electrical engineer. So growing up, I wanted to, there was a point in my life I wanted to become an accountant. I don't know why, but I know that decision changed in GSS 3 when I was done with my exams. And my dad came to pick me with his friend, and then we just had a conversation. His friend is a senior accountant, and he was telling me, nah, I don't want you to do this and all of that. So apparently he had a conversation with my dad, and myself and my older brother wanted to go into accounting, and they were like, no, we need somebody else. So we need somebody to go the other way, and they bribed me with 1,000 naira.
Are you serious?
Yes, I remember.
To not go into accounting?
Yes, to go for the science classes, and it was just, I think it was something that was there because, like I said, I was always hanging around my dad, and when the decision to go to science class happened, I wanted to, now I was thinking towards becoming an electrical engineer. Yeah, so I think the lines just fell in place, and yeah, so all along I wanted to become an electrical engineer because, like I said, I was always hanging around my dad. I was this girl who was fascinated by sockets, fixing them. I used to fix things around the house and all of that. I mean, I had brothers, but I remember doing that a lot. And so when it was time to go into the university, I had the Nigerian thing. So I didn't get into school the first year, and so I was at home, and okay, this is something I've never really said publicly. I started attending the remedial classes at Federal University of Technology, Mina, because I grew up in Mina. But some of my classmates might listen now. I wasn't registered. I just didn't want to stay at home. And then I had cousins on campus that were schooling, so I used to come around, and then I started attending classes and all of that. Yeah, so that happened, and until I got admission. And then the Nigerian thing happened again. I applied for electrical engineering, but they didn't give me electrical engineering. They gave me cybersecurity science, and that was the first time I ever heard about it.
Are you serious?
And I was like, no way, I'm not doing this. What is this course? The only thing that came into my head was, you're going to work in a cyber cafe. That was what we knew cyber to be.
Yeah.
All of that. So it was,
Oh my
I
God,
wasn't
that's-
really fascinated. I wasn't really excited by that. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to have that name in front of, I wanted to be called Engineer Elizabeth and all of that. I just always had that dream.
Right.
And it was kind of heartbreaking, but thank God for the way it happened. Thank God I had my dad around. And because so we did a lot of research. I remember printing out a lot of pages from Google. We did Google searches. He had his copy, I had my copy. So we read stuff, just basically
Just
trying to understand.
yeah, what the field
Yeah,
is
so
about.
he spoke to some of his friends and they were like, yeah, it's a good one. I think she should go for it and all of that. And I was like, okay, after a lot of conversations. Well, I didn't want to stay at home again, so I went in for it. But it was until about my second or third year in the university, I was like, okay, I should settle into this and actually enjoy it. I was just passing through school and all that. So, yeah, third year, third year, I became more interested. You know, when you tell people, oh, I'm studying cybersecurity, they're like, are you serious? Huh? That's really
I know it sounds
interesting.
like it's such an exotic
And
course now.
So where can you work? I always knew I could work anywhere, but I didn't really, it wasn't very clear. I was like, oh, I could work anywhere and all of that. You're studying cybersecurity, that's so good. And then I was feeling so cool. And I was like, okay, if talking about this alone is really as cool as this, like everybody's like, oh, this is interesting and all of that. I think I should actually get into knowing what exactly it is. I should enjoy it and all of that. And I think that was where the journey began for me, because I was very intentional about where I observed my Cyrus, my compulsory Cyrus. That was my fourth year and all of that. Yeah, so basically I would say that was how.
That is such an interesting story, because for most people you just think, oh, I always wanted to go into cybersecurity.
Yeah, wow.
It was what I wanted to do, and yours was more like
It was,
I
I like to
Nigeria.
call it a beautiful accident. Yeah, because it was
Exactly.
a Nigerian
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for giving us that background. So you finished school and then, you know, basically plunged into this world of cybersecurity. And now cybersecurity is a huge deal. Like, you know, not just globally, but also increasingly in Africa. What for you, in the time that you spent in the field so far, what for you has been maybe one of the highlights of working, you know, as a cybersecurity expert? What is one experience that you think you'll always remember?
So I'd like to mention one, but I think I have three.
Okay,
I
great.
think I have three, and it happened in the last 2 years. The most recent one was being listed as one of the top 50 in cybersecurity. Thank you. And it just, it might be small to anybody, but it just made sense that, oh, so you're being recognized for what you're doing every day. You're being recognized for what you enjoy. I mean, I don't know who nominated me, but then there was a process and all of that. There was a point I thought, oh, I think I should nominate myself. But like, no, let this just happen naturally. And then I made it to the finalists, and yeah, so that was one of it for me. Another one, the other two happened last year. One was being at DEFCON. DEFCON is like it's like the biggest gathering of hackers in quotes, because we have every kind of person there.
Yeah.
The biggest gathering of hackers all over the world in information security. We have students, we have professionals, we have enthusiasts, we have all kinds of people. We have people who are interested, who are actually not in the field. So it's like it was one of the highlights for me, because that's where you get to meet people you have heard about. That's where you get to meet people who wrote books that you read. That's where you get to network, basically, grow your network. I mean, I have a wider network now, beyond Nigeria, beyond Africa, and all of that. Yeah, so that was one of the highlights for me. And another one, which I think is the most, was being at the UN headquarters last year.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was a very funny story how I got there. But I was representing the Cybersecurity Experts Association of Nigeria. I made a presentation on cyber threat landscape. I mean, it was the whole experience. It just makes it look like, wow, you're at the UN and you're talking about cybersecurity. And I think I'm still very young in the field, and so those are the highlights for me. I know you said one, but I have three.
No, but those are excellent highlights. What did your family say when you told them you're going to the UN?
My God, They were excited, like it made so sense. My brother kept saying, I came back home one day and I was like, oh, I think I'm going to the US next week. And my brother was like, because I just came back from the US a few months back, and I was like, what's happening again? I was like, I'm still working on something. There was an application. I applied late, but like the deadline was passed already. But I think I put in an impressive application and all of that. So let's wait and see. At that time, I hadn't gotten confirmation yet. And I was like, okay, let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. And then when I came back, I was like, oh, it's confirmed, I'm going. And I was like, this girl, like, you just said it. I was like, ah. Like, it was really exciting. It was so, like, I talk about things I want to do with my immediate family. And when it happens, and then people are like, oh my God, you said this. And, like, you said it jokingly, and then it happened. And it was a good, I think it was one of the, was a very, very exciting time for my family. Yeah.
Awesome. I wanted to ask you about coming into the field of cybersecurity, one as a young woman, and then as a young African woman. You know, how has that impacted you? Have you found that has it given you an advantage? Has it given you a disadvantage to be a young woman in this field?
I would say it has its advantages and disadvantages. Excuse me. Talking about the advantages, there has been a lot of attention on women in tech generally because of the low representation of women in tech. I think the current figures we have about, I think it's approaching 20% globally in tech generally, representation of women. So yes, there has been a lot of attention on that, and we have a lot of programs and all that trying to encourage more women. We have resources, we have organizations that are willing to fund some women to ensure that they get some additional skills. Basically just encourage more women, empower more women to come into the field. So yes, that's an advantage I would not deny. Yes, I have been I've benefited from some of those programs and all of that. So yes, it has its advantages. As a woman, yes, it also has its disadvantages. There's something a mentor told me a couple of years back. I got a new job then, and then he was telling me, I do not want to discourage you, but you might have to work twice as hard to prove yourself. He was telling me, I know you know what you're doing. I have worked with you. You have the content, you have the skills, you have the capacity and all of that. But you might have to work twice more than your colleagues to prove yourself because you're a woman. So that limitation is there already. I think it's the world we grew into, and so there is just this ideology that is there. Something needs to be done, and they're like, oh, let's not stress her, she's a woman, but I can do it, and all of that. Yeah. So sometimes that is there. I've had to work as the only woman on so many teams and all of that. So sometimes you have to lead a team, you're not respected. So you have to deal with trying to get your team to actually do the job and trying to get them to respect you and all of that. So yes, it has its disadvantages and it also has its advantages. Now, as an African, well, I think Africa is doing we're coming up well in the area of cybersecurity. I mean, we're not there yet. We still have things that we need to put in place. But so far, we're coming up well. Like, it's an integral element when we're talking about the global economy and all of that, and looking at how technology is influencing everything that we're doing. Africa needs to be a part of so many conversations. So we have a lot of global systems, interest and all of that. So they're trying to encourage Africans to come into some of these conversations. Yeah, so that is there. And yeah, it's been exciting so far.
I know that one of the things that you do is you're very interested in education.
Yes.
And especially in getting young women into the field of tech. Yes. Where did that love for training younger people come from, and what is your ultimate goal when you look at getting younger people involved, or getting younger ladies especially involved in technology?
Okay, so the love started from me just wanting to put myself out there gain some additional experience. I believe one of the fastest ways you can learn is when you teach people. So after school, it started after school. Yes, I am doing my service year. I volunteered with a number of organizations. They were mostly not paid, just to teach people at boot camps. Oh, I know little on this. I believe I should teach somebody else because I want to know more on it. Sometimes I have to read more to be able to teach, and because I see that I have something that you do not have, and I think it will be beneficial to you when I give it to you. So some of these organizations worked with people from areas known for a low percentage of education and all of that. And so it was more like a way for me to gain some additional experience and also give of myself. And growing up, coming into this field, I didn't exactly have a figure to look up to and say, okay, this is the person I'm aspiring to become like. I mean, now I have a clearer picture, but back then I didn't have that picture. I was just going. I was hoping that, yes, something was going to come out of it for me. Thankfully, I had family that was encouraging me and helped me to see the light, but I didn't really have that picture and all of that. So it was like a blind journey for me. So when I am teaching, mentoring young girls, I want you to have a pictorial representation of what a future looks like for you. I think it's easier for you to arrive at a destination when you see a reflection of what you want to become at that point you're heading to. When you see what you're aspiring to become, I think it's easier for you. You walk faster towards it. You know what you can do to actually get there. And when you stand on somebody's shoulders, you see farther. So I think for me, it's an opportunity to actually hold someone else's hands and ensure that they go as far as possible. I mean, as women now, I cannot deny the fact because this is who I am, this is my reality and all of that. There are 1,001 reasons. I mean, the men have their own reasons also, but I can only speak from my perspective. There are 1,001 reasons why I'll get to a point and be like, okay, I shouldn't go further, I shouldn't do this. Today I wake up, I'm in pains, but I have a deadline to meet. And so I need to get up and go to the office and do what I need to do. Now my colleagues might not really understand, but it is my reality and all of that. So when you see someone that goes through, that has the similar experiences which you tell you, okay, you can actually do this. If you want to do this, you can do this. I know we cannot ignore the fact that these roadblocks are there, but you can overcome it. You just need to. This is how I did it. This is what I was able to do. So, yes, this is one of the reasons why. And I believe everybody has a part to play in how the world functions generally. I mean, how God created the world. He made male and female. If we're talking about things as it relates to human rights or talking about how the system works and all of that, and you're only taking it from the perspective of one gender, how you're not going to get the best solution out of it. So I think everybody has a part to play, and I don't think anyone should be left out. And if, for me, I grew up to see something where there wasn't enough representation. I don't want to use equal, but I feel like it wasn't considered. I don't want to come and then in my time we have enough representation, and then when I'm gone, the story is different. It's back to how it was before. I don't think I've left it. Yes, like building a legacy. So I think everybody deserves a chance to show what they are.
So I really like what you said about, when you stand on someone's shoulders, you see farther. I find that's a very true statement. So whose shoulders are you standing on? Who are your mentors?
Okay. The first person, it's really funny how I got him to mentor me. I had to send an email and all of that. It was just somebody I saw, and I just wanted to have that person. Mr. Ajijala Abdulakim. He is the Executive Director of Consultancy Support Services. Actually, one of my first boss. It's not my first job, but one of my first bosses that I really enjoyed working with. And yeah, he's one person that I think has held my hands and is constantly challenging me. I mean, as I speak, I have a report I need to get to him before the end of the day. He's not my employer, but like I'm accountable to him that way. Another person I recently started looking up to. I haven't met her in person, but I look forward to meeting her. She's the ambassador at large for cybersecurity for Estonia, Heli Tarmakla. Yeah, that's her name. I mean, if you look at the history of cybersecurity, Estonia is one of the countries that is leading because in 2007 they had one of the most massive cyber attack ever. So that made the country to take cybersecurity serious. And I'm interested in cyber diplomacy. So to see her as the ambassador at large for cybersecurity for Estonia, having conversations in that area, it's really inspiring, and I look forward to that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad you brought up the cyber attacks example because globally we've seen recently, more and more, cyber attacks and more serious ones going on. In Nigeria, and maybe in Africa as well, what are some of the challenges facing cybersecurity in the way that people understand it and the way, like, what are some of the things that we are having problems or having challenges with?
Okay, first things first, people need to take it serious.
Yes,
cybersecurity is
right
now, cybersecurity is cybersecurity. Like we say, it's a shared responsibility. It's everybody's business. If everybody takes it serious, then we're going to have. I mean, we're not going to have 0 cases, but we're going to have a reduced number of cybersecurity cases. So first things first, people need to take it serious. And when I talk of people make up organizations. So organizations need to make it serious. And in a country, we have organizations. So the country needs to take it serious. But so far, starting from Nigeria, I think Nigeria is, we're coming up well, we're evolving well. Cybersecurity it's not what it was in the past 5 years. Like we have a lot of organizations come up. We have a lot of conversations in the area of cybersecurity. The government is recognizing cybersecurity as a serious thing. I mean, now we have the Cybercrime Act. I think that's going to be reviewed very soon because it's been about 5 years already. But we have a legal document that backs conversations on cybersecurity. We also have the data protection regulation that talks about protecting people's data and privacy. So, yeah, I think the government of Nigeria is recognizing cybersecurity. I mean, we need to do more. We really need to do a whole lot. It's not just about having these documents. Right. We need to put action into it. Another thing is, I like to say cybersecurity is very expensive because it is expensive. It costs money, and we need to, as a nation, as individuals, as organizations, we need to look at cybersecurity is not as an afterthought, but as an integral part of the process. Because when you spend a whole lot putting a building together and you're not talking about the security of that building, and one day somebody comes and sets it on fire, that's the end of it. So you need to talk about, we need to start looking at cybersecurity as an integral part of everyday processes and systems and all of that. Yeah, so I think Nigeria is doing well, but we still have a lot of work to do. We have a whole lot of work to do. Talking about Africa, we're doing well as a region. We're doing well. I mean, the African Union now has a cybersecurity experts group that was inaugurated last year. I think it was December 2019. And my mentor happens to be the chair of that committee. So Africa is doing well. Africa has been a part of some global conversations as it relates to cybersecurity. And Africa has some documents as it relates to cybersecurity. And we've seen a lot of countries coming up in the area of cybersecurity. I know Kenya is one country that is ahead of their game. South Africa is also one of the countries. I mean, Nigeria is doing well. We have a lot of work to do. We have some work to do. And I think.
What would you say is one thing that we have to do that maybe we haven't actually started doing?
Okay, like I mentioned, we need to look at cybersecurity as an integral part of the entire system and process, not as an afterthought. Not
Okay.
some
So build
yes,
it in from scratch.
yes,
in the beginning.
yes. We need to look at it as we need to give it primary focus. We need to address areas as it relates to cybersecurity. I mean, we should be talking about a. I know we have the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, but I think we need to have an organization like that as it relates to cybersecurity.
Like on its own.
Yes, on its own. Nigeria has the National Cybersecurity Strategy and Policy, and one of the things that it mentions is to have a National Cybersecurity Coordination Center in Nigeria. It's been 5 years, we haven't seen it yet. But I believe a lot of issues might have been addressed if we have that organization in place that is actually ensuring that some of the things that the strategy document talks about is being put in place. So yeah.
Okay, so cybersecurity for a lot of people is like up here. Oh yeah, one big thing out there. If you were talking to somebody individual now, people who, like you said, it starts with the person. We need to start taking it seriously individual. What are 5 basic things like everybody needs to know or needs to do to protect themselves in cyberspace?
Okay, 5 basic things. First things first, we are all digital citizens now. We all have mobile phones, we have social media accounts, we have emails and all of that. First things first, have a healthy password. Have a healthy password culture. I think that's
Not
the
your
key.
birthday.
Not your birthday. I mean, that's the key to most of the digital accounts and devices that you hold. So have a healthy password. It shouldn't be your birthday. It shouldn't be your middle name. It shouldn't be your mother's maiden name. It shouldn't be your pet's name and all of that. Yeah. So have a healthy password culture. I mean, there are 1,001 resources that can help you to come up with
To create them
yes.
automatically.
Well,
Or to come up with
I mean,
options.
if you want to, you need to be able to remember your password. So we
That's
have
a big
techniques
problem.
that
A lot
okay,
of
let me
people.
just do this. We have techniques that actually help people to come up with healthy passwords. There's something we call mnemonics. For example, I want a password, and I love photography, and I can say photography is my favorite thing in the world. So instead of putting out photography as, this is just an example, as my password, I can pick the first word of every letter. Say photography, that's P-I-M. Photography is my favorite. F, thing, T. In, I, that's T, the world. I mean, it can be a much longer statement, and then in between I mix in numbers. I can, like, okay, photography is mine. Instead of M, I use a 3 and all that. So you can just mix it like that. Something about mnemonics, it helps you to remember it and all of that. I mean, you need to remember your password. Another thing you can do is you can use password managers to help you. Things like that. So first things first, have a healthy password culture, and that also comes with not using the same password across multiple platforms, because when one
people do that because they think it's easier.
But then when one is compromised, when one of your accounts is compromised, that puts the others at risk. Also, we all have devices and all of that. So these devices, they're hardware, but they run on softwares. So you need to keep them up to date. You need to keep them up to date. So that
don't
talks
ignore
about
those updates.
yes,
every time it
don't
says
ignore
your
those
phone needs to
updates.
update, and you're like,
Make sure.
I
I
don't
mean,
have
the
data.
reason why there is a update is because the person who designed this think, okay, there is a hole that we need to patch up. So they
Right.
release an
It's a
update.
bug,
It's
they want
supposed
to
to do
fix
that.
it,
They don't
right.
just want to eat your data. There is actually something. There's a bug they need to fix and all of that. There's a vulnerability they need to close up and all of that. Yeah, so that's 2. Another thing is do not visit untrusted sites. Now let me explain that. We say this thing, when something appears free, you might actually be the product being sold because it's actually not free. Don't visit untrusted sites. Don't go to untrusted sites to download movies. I think, I mean, someone just released the movie and it's still in the cinemas, but there is this site that always has movies.
that you can
Man, do you think they are just hosting. You know what it takes to host that amount of data
So they're
and all of
collecting
that.
something.
Yes, it's on someone's bill, it's on somebody's pocket. So there might be something that is just there that you do not know. So don't visit untrusted sites. There might be a malware or something that is attached to that file that you are downloading and all of that. So yeah, that's another thing. Another thing.
How about how often you change your passwords?
Okay, so
Is that a consideration?
well, so we we have this joke. We say don't use a password longer than you would use a toothbrush, but then people are not very conscious about how they use their toothbrush.
But I'm not asking how long do you use a
Yeah,
toothbrush?
how long do you? But I think the medical timeline is 3 months.
Exactly,
Yeah,
so
so
that's
you don't
3
use
months.
a password. Well, that also has its having to change your password that regularly. I mean, just I think you should just work with what works for you. But if you're trying to determine what works for you, make sure it's a healthy security culture. I mean, I might go as long as 6 months. This is not the law. This is not like, but this is just me saying I might go as long as 6 months if I know that I have my password is very
right?
yes and all of that. Because if you go ahead changing and you can't really remember anything that actually helps you remember. So change it as often as you can, as you would allow yourself to. Yeah, change as often as you can. Yeah, then I think another tip I would like to give is wise up, man. Just wise up, because some things just don't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Like, it really just doesn't make sense.
Like if you get that email that somebody's uncle died,
Yes,
and
like
left them
it
15
doesn't
million.
make sense. Like you
And you
didn't
should just
give
send their
anybody
number.
any money. So what gets rich quick method are you looking for and all of that? I mean, that's how we get. That's how people fall prey to phishing emails. Some phishing emails, because some are very, very, very smart. It might look like something that came from your bank.
It's legit, yeah.
But then, really just wise up and be conscious about your personal security in the digital world. Like I said, we are all digital citizens. We all have digital devices now and all of that. Just really just wise up. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Just one last thing. What advice would you give to someone interested in the field, that you are in, a younger person who is looking at, I want to do what she's doing, I want to get to where she is. What are some of the key tips you would have for them?
Okay, first things first, there's room for you. There is room for you, and if you want to do it, you can do it. It's possible. Don't think, oh, this person is smarter than I am. Cybersecurity is a big deal. How can I, this very small girl or guy, just come in and yeah? So basically, there's room for you. One thing I say, the tech world generally, you're learning constantly. Every day there is always something. Every day there is something. I mean, there was a time when we didn't think of artificial intelligence and machine learning as a thing, but we have billionaires in that area now. Like, it's something that came in not so long ago and all of that. So it's a constantly evolving field, and you're constantly learning. So you need to have that willingness and ability to develop yourself constantly. I mean, if you have that, there's so many self-taught professionals in this field. They didn't exactly have to go to school to become
They just kept
subject
learning
matter
themselves.
experts. Yes, so you need to have that. You need to be able to learn and teach yourself and be willing to really just gain additional knowledge. Another thing that I think it's very important is community. Community is a very key part of this industry that we're talking about. It's a very, very, very key part of it. When you're involved in community, that's how you hear about new things that are coming up. That's how that's how you find your best buddy on the job. I mean, it might not be in your organization, but then when you attend meetups and all this, you just have conversations with people. That's how you learn new things. That's how you get referrals for jobs and all of that.
Right,
that's how you get somebody to help you on something that has been a project you've been working on for 3 weeks and you've been stuck. You're just having a random conversation. That's how you get someone that helps you. So community is very important. have a mentor. I know we've talked about this. Have somebody that you look up to. Have somebody that holds your hands through certain times. I mean, it's a whole lot easier when you're working on a journey with someone than when you're working alone. So have a mentor. That's very, 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 very important. And I'll also go back to the first thing I said. Having the desire to learn constantly and all of that. You can never know it all. It's the truth. This guy looks like a genius, but he doesn't know it all.
Right.
Mark Zuckerberg doesn't know it all. There is an area. That's why he has people that he works with. They are experts in that field, so to say, and all of that. You can never know it all. Because one thing for me, I always wanted to know. Oh, we're talking about this. I always wanted to know. But you just burn yourself out. Like, you can never know it all. So just identify something that you're comfortable with. Identify your niche. It's okay to know a little about other things. I mean, it's going to help your workflow and all of that overall. But you can really never know it all. And I think it's important that you know that from now so that you don't feel like, oh, I don't know as much as this guy knows and all of that. I mean, just identify that area that you really want to specialize in. And like when people tell me I want to get into tech, I want to get into cybersecurity, I'm like, okay, have you done your research? Have you been reading? And they go, yes. Okay, what area have you identified? I'm like, I don't really know. I just want to. I'm like, okay, it's okay not to know, but I want you to know that you need to find that it's a very, very broad field. So if not, you end up being confused. Yeah, so basically, I think that's it.
What would you want to be most remembered for? I mean, you're way away from that particular legacy conversation, but if there's something as you build your career that you want, when people hear your name, when people see your work, they think about this, what would that thing be?
That's a hard one, but like I mentioned, I'm in operations right now, but diplomacy is one area that I want to really settle in the nearest future. So while my country is still evolving and all of that, I want to be remembered as the young lady who had some conversations or came into some agreements or struck some deals as it relates to cybersecurity. I want to be that lady. I want to be that diplomat that actually put Nigeria out there, that represented Nigeria at the UN, at those global conversations and all of that. Like I said, Africa is an integral part of the global economy. Everybody is coming into Africa and all of that. I want to be the person that actually earned Nigeria, that earned Africa its place on that table of global conversations on cybersecurity.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much for
having
being
me
with us today. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, I did also. Thank you very much.
I think that wraps it up for me. I do want to ask you a more non-serious list, which is what we call the KA favorites list. So I'm just going to ask, and then whatever comes to mind first. Favorite Nigerian food?
This is a hard one. Because I don't have favorite foods, but I think I like to cook jollof rice.
Have you had Ghana jollof rice? Okay, we'll have that conversation.
Well, I've had Ghana jollof rice, but let's not, please. My jollof in my house, Nigerian jollof still beats it, man.
Favorite place in Nigeria to visit?
I don't really have that because I haven't visited so many places in Nigeria. But I think I like Abuja as a place. I've lived in Lagos. I know I don't want to be there.
Sorry, Lagos with no shade.
Yeah. I think I still like Abuja very much.
How about Africa?
Favorite place in Africa. I haven't been to so many places. Forgive me, I'm a very boring traveler. I go for what I'm there for and I just come back. If I don't see who is dragging me out of my comfort zone.
Is there any place you want to visit?
I actually want to go to Kenya and Rwanda. I want to visit those places. I have looked at some of their sites that are of interest, but I've not picked that favorite place yet. But I really want to visit those two countries.
Okay, last one. Favorite song?
This one is hard. It's hard, but I like jam. I like vibe. So I think we can. I think one song I've listened to very well in the past days would be "Billionaire" by Tenny. I mean, I think it's like a prayer. I want to be a billionaire and all that. I think it's like a prayer, and it's good vibes basically.
Awesome. Wura, which I know, yes, Wura. Elizabeth Kolade, thank you so much for coming on the Kafe
Thank
Ankara
you
podcast.
for having me, Ada. Thank you so much.
Hopefully we'll talk to you again that time. Best of luck.
Thank you.
In your work.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's it for now, guys. We will be back with hopefully an interesting interview.
Thank you very much.
My name is Ada Ezeokoli, and I'm your host. Thank you.